Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the BigHorn, part number 70153. This is a multi-spur bit, is what it is. This is a 2 1/8 inch multi-spur bit, and let's take a look at it. Now, multi-spur bits are stock in trade when it comes to door installation kits. Lock installation kits have been around for a very long time. Couldn't say how many decades. Several, in fact. And the multi-spur bit is very typical to be used to drill lock holes in... this would certainly work in wood doors and fiberglass doors. I wouldn't use it in anything that's metal at all, not even, you know, a metal-clad, very thin gauge material. I would use a bimetal hole saw for that. But wood doors, fiberglass doors, this should do pretty well. And the multi-spur bit, multi-spur, is the standard bit that will come with kits. BigHorn, of course, has a lock installation kit that they supply. And it is the tool that is understood to be used for that sort of preparation. This video is to talk about this bit, where it's used, why it's used. Let's first take some dimensional properties. You know, we know it's 2 1/8. The length of the shank, the overall length is 6 inch. Okay, it has a dipped rubberized coating over it that you'll peel off. It protects the carbide tips that are here. Because they're carbide tips, you should have fairly decent success, likely in a carbide insert, carbide cutter here. It does not appear to be a self-feeding bit, which I don't personally love, and I'll talk about that, assuming I don't forget. My point is, these carbide tips, that carbide cutter, you should be able to get a couple of decent sharpening cycles out of it. You know, in my experience, when I use a bit and it's time to have it sharpened, I'll have it sharpened, and then I just consider it a backup. I go to a new bit. You know, I don't get nearly the same sort of obstacle-free prepping of a door when I've got a bit that's been to the sharpener. And it's also, of course, got everything to do with the talent of the people that are doing the sharpening service. Back in the old days, you know, we would have weekly pickup and drop-off of clients would send us circular saw blades, planer blades, everything under the sun to be sharpened. Chisels, hand saws. Go out to the sharpening service, come back, the whole 9 yards, get it dropped off. You know, this may or may not be able to be sharpened by the company that you might ask to do it, but I would sure try it before I would pitch it. The bit's not very expensive, but it's awfully nice to have a backup. So let's talk about, you know, what this is and where you're going to encounter it. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Now, where you're going to encounter it is anyone who's wanting to drill a 2 1/8 inch hole. Again, those lock installation kits. Many people have made them over the decades. I won't name them there, but I could name 6 companies. BigHorn is a relatively new entrant into that world of lock installation kits. They all include a multi-spur bit for the face of the door, or some derivative of it. I don't like multi-spur bits at all. I don't use them. I've used them once or twice. I would not choose to use them at all, even though I believe my opinion in that regard is certainly in the minority position. I've discussed lock installation kits with a lot of people, and they look at me like I'm, you know, a little bit not sure what I'm talking about. I've drilled thousands of doors, and I have found that I can't predict that multi-spur bit hitting the face of the door with these aggressive teeth. I've seen, if you have an open grain wood, back in the old days, you'd be drilling Luan all the time. Oak, mahogany, these bits have a tendency to tear, and it's difficult to approach your work slowly when you're dealing with a multi-spur bit. You have to hit it and go. I want something that's going to score the outside, and this does not feature any scoring functionality. Schlage had an old bit that wasn't carbide. It was very similar to this, except that it had a half-moon scoring cut around the outside, and the rest of this was, there were no teeth anywhere. This was the only cutter. It's scored out here, so I could take that bit and I could move it to the face of the door, and it may have been self-feeding as well. I would score, and then the cutter would then begin to lift and remove wood as I went around. You're not scoring at all. The only time I've seen people use these successfully is they've taken that bit and they've dove right in just to make it happen. You know, I've always used a bimetal hole saw. Why? They're cheap. They're predictable. The teeth on there are very small. They're a little bit of a hassle because the core of the door backs up inside of here and you have to work all that loose. But they create less dust overall. And did I mention they're cheap? So that's what I use, but you're not going to use that in your lock installation kit. My opinions aside about whether or not to use a multi-spur bit shouldn't, you know, give you any pull in either direction. I remember being on what we used to call a side job on a Saturday afternoon with my dad, and we left. I was probably 16 years old, and we left the shop. Maybe I was 14 actually. Went, and my dad's going to put a deadbolt in a door for a client. I don't recall if it was a garage door or their entry door. Took his multi-spur bit, a Luan door, and sure enough, just tore the veneer out. And he was so dejected. We went back to the store, got a couple of Donjo scar plates, you know, 2 1/8 inch ID, 3 1/2 inch OD. The client didn't mind. She actually liked how they looked, so it all worked out in the end. But as soon as I saw that, I've always said to myself, I don't like multi-spur bits.
Sorry,
now
I couldn't hear what you said.
A self-feeding bit is going to have a spiral thread on it. And that's nice because as soon as you hit, you'll tell as you're going with the tool and the drill, it will bring you into the workpiece. That is a nice feature as long as you know it's there. You don't, you know, I've taken a 1-inch fly bit or butterfly bit or spade bit, you know, whatever you want to call them, with a self-feeding point, and all of a sudden I was drilling the door. I didn't realize I had already hit it. So be mindful. I don't really care for them, but I don't use these anyway. So let's switch to the screen view. I've talked about this enough. It's going to come out of one of the BigHorn kits. Let's look at the supporting documentation. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. Okay, here are we arrived to our BigHorn multi-spur bit. This is a 70153. We have some images linked to down below, and let's take a look at them. There's the packaging. And there is a set screw that's in the stem, and we're going to take a look at what that might mean in a moment. You can see evidence of it here. Tells me something's replaceable, just not exactly sure. We'll take a look at that in a moment. Just more views of the item itself. Your cutter, your carbide teeth, your there's a name for that point. I don't know what it is. Anyway, little profile view. That's the business end. And then your shank. Let's take a look now at the extended description information. 2 1/8 inch carbide, 1/2 inch shank with a 3/8 hex. So 1/2 inch, 3/8. So you don't have to have a 1/2 inch drill for this, which is nice because the tool will end up being lighter in my opinion. Replaces Templaco. So this is apparently a... Templaco is another company that has installation aids, guides, templates, things of that nature. A different company. Overall length 7 inch. High quality micrograin carbide cutting surfaces are welded to each other, to each cutter face and tip. Sure. I don't know if that set screw is going to infer anything. Link here to the product brochure. Let's take a look at that. And this is where you'll see 4 pages of all of their door installation tools. And out of their 70145 is where you're going to get your 70153 bit and the other bits as well. That's the drill fixture. You can buy that alone separately. You don't have to buy an entire new kit. Some people will use these to the point where it's literally worn. Or stolen, or broken. Unfortunately, that happens. Other lock installation tools. This is a quick release tool. That's awfully nice. So a quick release tool obviously is when you're switching between your 2 1/8 and your 1-inch, pull the release back, put your bit back in the tool, in the case, and you're back to work. Bronze bushings are very common to buy those. That bronze bushing is going to be right here. You do enough drilling, that bronze bushing, well, if you do enough drilling, the bronze bushing will wear. If you move too fast, if you're not drilling exactly straight, you'll replace them sooner rather than later. Corner chisel, buy 2 of them. These are very time-saving oriented type tools. Put your hammer and chisel back where they belong. Get a corner chisel. Center marker, that's a great option. Wood templates for doing strikes, things of that nature. It's light-duty material, but it does work and it is effective. A door lifter. I just did a video earlier today on a door lifter. And then replacement bits. This is probably the most common page that you'll end up getting to. 1-inch, 1.5 if you're doing a Schlage. They'll take 1.5. Quickset et al. Other people will take 1.5. Some Quickset will. I think they had a gate latch at one time that would take it. And then, of course, the 2 1/8. I'm a fan of drilling 1.5 every single time your lock will take it. Why is that? Well, you're removing more of the door. Leave as much of the door intact as possible. And plus, generally, not always, but you'll find a cleaner look. Smaller hardware on the door with 1.5. Schlage's 400 series, their 100 series. These were tremendous locks that all would go into a 1.5 hole. We would call this a VIX bit. So do they. I believe the name VIX is after the person who patented it. If you are pre-drilling holes in hinges, indoors for hinges, you are going to want this. This will make life very easy. Spring-loaded, put your drill here. You push down and it will push that bit into it. And this area here centers in the leaf of the hinge itself. So you put the leaf or the hinge on the door where you want to drill this and just zip it 4 times or 3 times, whatever you're doing. These are router bushings. These are for prepping your door and frame for these templates that they have scattered throughout this document. Now, speaking of documents, there is a link below this video here to the manufacturer's page. And from there, you can view not only all of the BigHorn products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. It's a lot more than 4 pages here because they have 100+ pages of all sorts of tools as it relates to the woodworking industry. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. In conclusion, I wanted to bring you a up-close view of this carbide bit. A very common, very typical item, is probably the most common replacement part that we sell for lock installation kits. Have not historically sold a lot of BigHorn tools because, as I had said earlier, they're relatively new, I believe. I will mention the other names just because there's no reason not to. And most of them aren't even in business making it anymore. Westlock made a lock installation kit, long discontinued. Quickset, their 138, that kit existed for a few decades. That's been recently discontinued. Best used to have one. They don't make that one anymore. It comes from ProLock. Schlage used to have one. They don't make that one anymore. It comes from ProLock. ProLock has one. Classic Engineering, I said 6. Classic Engineering had the best quality of all. They've deceased. Thankfully, they did not. They ceased operations at some point in 2019. Just found that they couldn't compete with what the market was willing to pay. Their tooling was the highest quality of all of them, in my opinion. Back to Schlage, they've made material over the years. Major Manufacturing, that's 7. They make a ton of lock installation tools. None of these people that I've mentioned compete with BigHorn in terms of pricing. So if you're looking for a confluence of value, that BigHorn catalog would be the first and last stop on that train. But a lot of people make lock installation kits. I have reviewed, I think, all of those, and still prefer my $12 2 1/8" bimetal hole saw. You know, the point of the lock installation kit is that it ritualizes the process. You have to measure to the center, mark your line, you're done. You can turn the brain off. You clamp the kit down, and that's all you need to do. You know what to drill, take it off, you're done. When you're doing it by hand with a hole saw, you've got to measure the top to the center line. You've got to then measure the back set. So you have opportunities to make errors in that regard. And yes, 1 out of 100 doors, I'm going to make a mistake on, or thereabouts. I would have a nice run of no mistakes. You know, the classic idiom, measure twice, cut once. But 1 out of 100, it's on a Friday at 5 o'clock. You better triple check it, at least in my experience. But as I said, I've had that conversation with people about lock installation kits, and they said, I wouldn't be able to drill the door without one, they said. Great. However you get it done, I hope BigHorn can play a role in that. Any questions on this or any other BigHorn product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.